How's it over there? What's going on? Are you good? Are you peachy? And are you forever in a good place? Whatever, moving on. Not that you will answer. We're in the next part. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings. I'm passing electricity cut time, making like a black person in the group areas, previously black only area in South Africa, like literally finding something to do, given that my country's government has no interest under heaven at all to bring electrical infrastructure to my particular area or region. So Soweto, which is a previously black area in Johannesburg of South Africa. Others that I could mention are Gugulethu, which is, I believe, is at Cape Town or Durban. I think it's Cape Town. Kayalija, Alex, Soweto. I've mentioned Soweto. Tembisa. What is this? Not Sprit. There was Sprit View. Sprit View was previously black, right? But what I wanted to say was Togoza. There are still largely whoever it is that was allotted an area to live in based on their race are still in that area, largely the main population. Like the apartheid is still very well alive, it's breathing, it's got fangs, it is like a dead man that won't like literally just leave already, but he's on life support, but everybody's still calling him alive because machines are breathing for him. Apartheid is on life support in this country and it's being kept there, okay? Nonetheless, whatever. So, granted the lack of infrastructure, we had to light up our houses. Kamalahle, Batsi was a whole thing. Batsi is wood. We had lots and lots of wood chopping experiences. However, we were not allowed to chop wood. We just used to watch lumberjacks. People, the gentrification of things that people used to genuinely survive with back in the day. It's like, y'all need to stop. There is this like lumberjack in the United States that has caused a stir on social media, TikTok, because he is so fly. Like, he is such an athlete with all of his lumberjacking. He's got these like violent muscles that are like with a life of its own. They've got like breath on their own. They've got lungs just on their own. And he has got all these like females like sliding into his DMs and all that stuff, married guy, and he's all flattered. And the reason why everybody thinks he's the baddest dude in the game is because he knows how to chop wood with all of his muscles. I've been watching lumberjacks all my life as a kid growing up, and neither once did I ever imagine them hot and sexy, because frankly they were doing a necessary thing and they were all just kind of scruffy and dirty in so doing, just like that American lumberjack. But because now it's within a gentrified space, it's considered sexy. Like, seriously, so many men in the days of apartheid would have been considered incredibly like Brad Pitty in how hot they were, because all they did was chop wood during winter. Like, I had cousins that were lumberjacks because all they did was chop wood. We would buy it indeed from like this one place called Marathi Station. They would send us as kids and we would carry these big bags of wood, of wood, dipati, but then we had these muscular cousins and they were made muscular because they were chopping wood every day, and they would be like kapati X Silepe. And X in my language is silepe. So I have been kids don't generally grow up in the presence of axes unless they grow up on farms or environments where they would be necessarily there. But so if you have been growing up in suburbia, you unlikely are going to just sitting there in a corner encounter an axe. But like, there were multiple axes in my home where we stayed with my grandmother, because people were always about that chopping wood business, and nobody's toe ever got cut. Everybody was cool. Everybody lived, okay? So yeah, you've glamorized some people's actual lifestyles that weren't so glamorized, like so glamorous. Then it was like a way of life, you guys, a way of life. Anywhere, how? So Pati Malahle handling coal, not for a bribe, but to actually heat up your house, and also chopping up of wood with actual axes was like a daily encounter. And because of how DIY black people had to be, thanks to a lack of provision of such things as those from, I guess, the services provided us by the government, we also grew up in the midst of welding machines. We grew up in the midst of sewing machines. Like all day, every day when I was growing up, all I could hear my grandfather doing was that, like, is it a saw or whatever machine that's just always cutting wood and stuff. Like, we get annoyed when we hear that all day because there is some like refurbishing project happening in a neighbor opposite us. But growing up, it was a daily noise to a point where you would make it second nature. Like, soft music, like, you know, when you're studying and you just like to hear waves in the background or the sound of rain just to be able to concentrate because it's like white noise to you. Our white noise was a welding machine. It was a saw. It was batsi. It was nails that were being hit into a wall like all day, because my grandfather was a construction what do you call this? The sort of kind of entrepreneur in the neighborhood. He had the skills. He was hired by white supremacy, and so therefore he gained the skills and employed them in the township to help people install fireplaces in their houses, to help people get what is this? Like he just like the house that my grandmother and my grandfather owned in the hood there in the Wedo out of Soweto. He built it like with his own bare hands because of the skill and the craft that he learned, having been recruited by a white man, by white supremacy, essentially, to build the skyscrapers that you now today see in downtown Johannesburg. He was an employee for building Johannesburg, and in gaining those skills, brought them back to Soweto and literally built my grandmother a house called Soweto, and build many other houses on that block, like on that street. There are 2 or 3 houses in Soweto in the street where we live that literally look exactly the same as the one that we lived in, because that's my grandfather's workmanship. He did that for them, and so they just copied. So we all just look the same. Like the houses, it's like a sectional title that has got one CI, corporate identity, or some kind one look. Like all of the houses in that complex look all the same. Yeah, my grandfather did that, but like in a couple of houses in Soweto where there were 4 or 5 houses on our street that looked exactly like ours. Like to this day, if I could actually be able to go to Tladi and show you, because my uncle still stays there, I could show you the houses that look exactly like my grandmother, because to this day they still look the same to this day, and that was because of my grandfather. All of that craftsmanship, the workmanship of black people, is what it is that helped us survive a season of the government refusing to help us out industrially or infrastructurally. They just did not do anything for us, so we did it all for ourselves until finally they sobered up. It was during Apartheid that they decided to bring electricity on board to Soweto. So they did not wait first for the black government to come on board, but it took a good minute for them to finally trickle down that water to Soweto. So at the early stages of my life, I lived without electricity, and it was a happy childhood, like proper. I had a good time. Don't look at me suffering like this at the hands of my strange family. They are under some satanic spell because I came to Christ, and my name is Joseph, and they are Joseph's brothers. I have got a happy story to tell about my childhood. It was a fun time. I barely remember being traumatized by the end of Apartheid, because somehow we managed to duck those bullets. We managed to dodge those bullets and so live. So for those reasons, I can't complain about my childhood. It was literally the baddest childhood in the game. All right. And it was full of like industriousness. We learned a lot of stuff. We learned how to handle a fire, keep it in a good bunch, make sure we don't die from carbon monoxide poisoning and all that jazz. And here it is that at the age of 38, I can live to tell the story. Amen. Not everything in black neighborhoods ends in a shack of fire. Next part, we shall communicate the rest of the story.